Welcome everyone to my review of IDW Sonic issue 66 and the final part of the Misadventures arc ? At the very least, we're getting the conclusions to the two stories from last time. Before we begin, if you're new to this channel and like this kind of content, please consider hitting the subscribe button. I'd really appreciate it. Alright, time to recap the events of last issue and spoilers from this point forward. Somehow, the Babylon Rogues discovered the location of the Marble Garden Relic Cave on Angel Island and stole both of them in front of Knuckles. The Echidna recruited the Chaotix to help get them back, and after a false start, they got some intel to where the Rogues will be meeting their business client. Vector wants to close this case as soon as possible because he and his teammates have a dinner date at Vanilla's house. The dinner itself is in jeopardy as Vanilla had to go out for some last minute ingredients. But that's the least of the Rabbit family's worries as Rough and Tumble decided to rob the place. The conflict got so intense that it caused Cream to accidentally cause a fire in the kitchen. Will these two situations resolve happily? Only one way to find out. Knuckles and the Chaotix waste no time and charge towards the Babylon Rogues. Storm tosses a relic towards Jet and Wave, and he and Knuckles begin round 2. Charmy intercepts the relic meant for Jet. Good job, kid! However, Jet's comment on how he won't let Charmy steal from him causes the Bee's mind to process the following. Stealing is bad, he doesn't want to be bad, he gives the relic back to Jet. I'm taking back that earlier compliment, Charmy. Thankfully, Espio latches onto the underside of Jet's board, and he causes both of them to crash into the water. As Wave searches for Jet, she's ambushed by Vector, chomping on her board in the process. Soon the situation winds up in favor of the heroes. Knuckles wins his rematch with Storm by forcing him into the water. Jet's a bit wiped and wet and hands over his relic when Charmy asks for it, and Vector forces Wave to surrender when he threatens to really chomp down on her board. Now that Knuckles has the relics back, Vector interrogates the Rogues. He wants to know who's hired them. Jet refuses to spill the beans, but the threat of taking his board away as evidence forces him to sing like a canary. All he knows is that they were hired by a mysterious client to do the job and get paid for it. Knuckles doesn't care. All that matters is that he got his relics back. Storm then pokes into Knuckles' Echidna pride by challenging him to yet another fight. Knuckles accepts, however Storm's teammates nix the idea. They're going to cut their losses, and Wave needs to repair their gear, and so they leave. As for how Knuckles will pay the Chaotix, since he has no money, he plans to hand over some fruit from Mushroom Hill. Sorry Vector, no cash this time. But hey, having some free food will save on grocery shopping, as Espio points out. Speaking of free food, Vector's reminded about the dinner date at Vanilla's place, and heads off, along with Charmy and Espio. Apparently, Vector didn't get the memo that Vanilla invited all three of them. Knuckles is then left alone, and he's faced with a new problem. How is he going to get back to Angel Island? On the Rogues blimp, Jet contacts their client saying that they botched a job, but they can try again. The client says, don't bother, they actually achieved what he wanted. That is, keeping certain parties distracted while he conducts business elsewhere. The Rogues will be compensated, of course. So who is this client of theirs? Why, it's Clutch the Possum. And that business he's dealing with at the moment? A meeting with Jewel the Beetle to establish a partnership between the Restoration and Clean Sweep Inc. Oh dear. So let's check in on those dinner preparations at the Rabbit House. And it's still a disaster. Despite Rough and Tumble's presence, Cream and Cheese are able to contain the fire, but the sauce is ruined. Things get worse as Rough and Tumble turn the scuffle into a food fight. It's still not enough to get the upper hand. Even when they succeeded in taking Cream hostage, they failed to take into account her Chow friends, especially since one of them is a weapon of mass destruction. The fight is interrupted when an alarm goes off, indicating that the roast is done cooking. And it actually turned out to be alright. But then Tumble had to be a douche and stomps on it. That was Cream's breaking point. I wonder if Gemeral's gonna go all Megan on the Skunk Brothers.
You made her cry.
That won't be necessary as Vanilla returns home. After seeing the mess, and hearing her daughter tearfully explain what happened, Vanilla takes control of the situation by asking the Skunk Brothers, was it alright to do all the stuff they did, in a tone that indicates she's gonna put these two 6 feet under, and they know it. That's when the Chaotix arrive. While they're ready to take on the Skunk Brothers, Vanilla says there's no need. She's already scared them straight. Besides, the Chaotix don't have the energy for another fight after handling the Babylon rogues earlier. Vanilla assures Cream that she did her best, and that she's proud of her, echoing what Gemeral said last time. Yeah, don't be too hard on yourself, Cream. You didn't ruin dinner. A couple of bullies did. Sometimes life just happens to throw these unexpected curveballs your way. So about that dinner. Well, when in doubt, order takeout. Everyone's enjoying themselves, though I don't know why Rough and Tumble are still here. While Vanilla says the meal's not perfect, she believes it's actually better this way. Again, reinforcing the notion that perfection is overrated. And we end the issue with Vanilla feeding Vector, and both seem to like it. Oh yeah. Vector was right. Clutch the Possum was responsible for this whole incident. It's a reminder that Vector is very intelligent, as he figured out who their mysterious client was in Sonic Heroes, and that someone was controlling the time meter in Sonic Generations. He just didn't realize it was a scheme to keep the Chaotix distracted while Clutch conducted business with Jewel. This is a very odd twist considering that he sent a spy to sabotage the Restoration's operations. Then again, using the Restoration to help gather discarded Eggman tech for Clean Sweep Inc. could speed up Clutch's timetable, and if someone were to catch wind of the Possum's true intentions, Mimic is waiting to cause some chaos. I wouldn't be surprised if Mimic as Duo arranged for Jewel to meet Clutch, thanks to his current position as her assistant. Now, Clutch being the Babylon Rogue's mysterious client nicely ties this fun story into the larger narrative that's going on. As I stated in previous reviews, it seems the purpose of the Misadventures arc is to really establish Clutch as a legitimate threat. And he does this again by orchestrating this little misadventure between the Chaotix, Knuckles, and the Babylon Rogues. That means he recognizes the Chaotix as a real threat despite being goofballs. I mean, they did mess up his earlier operations in issue 48, and he has to do this because during the aforementioned incident, he bragged about his intentions to resume his villainy in the midst of these new young heroes showing up. He didn't want to take the chance of the Chaotix warning Jewel of who this guy really is. Although there are still some individuals who know about Clutch's shadier side, like Team Dark, Cream Cheese and Gemerol, possibly Belle the Tinkerer, and finally, Amy Rose. Now, Team Dark's usually off doing their own thing, and Cream Cheese and Gemerol live far away not to be an immediate threat. Amy, though, is still a possible loose thread that Clutch needs to deal with. If, for example, she catches wind of Clutch, either by Jewel describing what he looks like, or by some chance catching a glimpse of him in Restoration HQ, I have no doubt she will warn Jewel about it. She is a very trusting individual after all. On a related note, I believe we can figure out how the Babylon Rogues knew about the Relic Cave. More than likely, Amy told someone about her trip to Angel Island, Mimic and his duo guys overhears this, passes the intel to Clutch, then Clutch hires the Babylon Rogues. And I betcha Clutch leaked the Rogues meeting so that the Chaotix would head there right away, or it could be an amazing coincidence. Either one's possible. The conflict between Knuckles and the Chaotix and the Babylon Rogues was short and sweet. Our heroes, Knuckles especially, didn't want to risk the Rogues getting away again. What ultimately caused the Rogues to give up is their wounded pride and damaged equipment. There was that one B-shaped hiccup at the beginning, and it's once again caused by a simple black and white worldview. I'm not going to defend him this time, because he should have known that the object he stole from Jet was one of the items Jet stole from Knuckles, and that's why the Echidna hired the Chaotix in the first place. At least in the Halloween special, he understood the idea of recovering stolen goods from thieves without asking for it first. Then again, different writers, and we don't know when the Halloween special takes place in-universe. It ultimately doesn't matter as long as Knuckles gets his property back. But as we saw at the end of his story, he lacks the means to get home. I believe it's time to set aside that echidna pride, Knuckles, and call either Amy or Tails so they can fly you home. On to the more lighthearted, relatively speaking, second tale. That is to say, the tale not tied to Clutch's current scheme. Man, Rough and Tumble were real scumbags. I mean, they always have been, but they were very nasty here. While I have no doubt Cream, Gemerald, and the two Chow can handle these guys, what was holding the family back in this case was not messing up the house and the food. A valiant effort, but it was all for naught. And Rough and Tumble committed the ultimate sin of making Cream cry. Luckily for the little rabbit girl, she has the support of a killer robot and a mother who could secretly be a killer herself. My one big negative about the story is Rough and Tumble joining everyone for dinner. That didn't feel right. It's like if someone were to kick a puppy, and the owner of said puppy would invite the person in for some pizza. Just no. At the very least, Vanilla's actions should have sent them packing. I mean, what's going to happen to them once the dinner ends? Will they just walk away scot-free to commit some more crimes later on? Will the Chaotix bring them in? We just don't know. On the other end of the spectrum, the big highlight for me is Vanilla walking into the mess and taking control of the situation. The way the panel frames Vanilla's sweet but psycho nature and the Skunk Brothers begging for their lives is brilliant. Adam Bryce Thomas once again flexes those anime muscles in the art. Another smaller highlight is showing the Vector Vanilla ship tease. What's funny about this, and to tie it back to the first story, is Vector hoping the dinner was a one-on-one thing with Vanilla, which makes his anxiousness to solve the case quickly, and his decorative note-taking from last time, more understandable in hindsight. The guy's so love-struck with Vanilla that he didn't know the other Chaotix were invited, something that Vanilla herself noted in the last issue. Still, it looks like things might go well for these two. Just make sure you stay on her good side, Vector. The stories in issue 65 and 66 have put me in a brighter mood, thanks to their tone, and the case of Cream's story, showing off lessons that can apply to real life. And if the Misadventures arc ends here, I'll be okay with it. It's nice to take a little breather from those big epic storylines for smaller character tales. At the same time, we're starting to see the build up to a new major conflict involving Clutch and his new business venture. And he's already causing headaches for some of our heroes through proxies. Who knows what else he might be capable of when he's in control of the situation. So yeah, right now, the Restoration's in a position to get screwed over twice. If they don't catch on soon. There's also a possible third way the organization could get screwed over. And it might not be related to Clutch. It's because the next issue will feature two new prospective members. Surge the Tenrec and Kit the Fennec. Yeah, they're coming back. What is their end goal? Do these two have some bigger plan with the Restoration? Or are they legitimately trying to change? And will this help or hinder Clutch's ultimate plans? Hopefully we'll find out in issue 67. See ya then. Based on Gemerald's expression, for lack of a better word, he's familiar with Vanilla enough to realize she's about to enter her quiet murder rage mode, and has probably witnessed this behavior before on some other poor saps. No wonder Rouge bailed at the end of Chow Races and Badnik bases, when Cream told her mother about the dangers she faced.